What's up, listeners? This is Cappel from Hold This L Podcast. Due to some technical difficulties, this week's YouTube episode will be audio only. Lonnie and I strive to give you the best quality, so we will be back next week with a video episode to accompany our podcast. We thank you for your support.
Do me for Hold This L.
Hold this L.
Hold This L.
Welcome to Hold This L with your boys Cappel and Lonnie. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What up, bro? We're ready for another episode. Ready to get to talking this morning about the MLB season. Ready to get it going, man. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you like my light? I know you if you had been watching, I've been doing my recording in the closet because I wanted to so it's early in the morning when we record, right? And I'm worried that my neighbor's gonna get up and mow their yard and have all that in the background. So I've been recording the closet, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna go ahead and record in the room where I got a little scenery, got me a little light. How you like my light?
Oh, it's real good. You can see your face.
I'm looking a little better.
Yeah, you're nice and
little scenery, got me a little light. How you like my light?
Oh, it's real good. You can see your face.
I'm looking a little better.
Yeah, you're nice and bright this morning.
Yeah, I figured I'd go ahead and make myself look a little bit better, more presentable, especially since you got your stuff looking good over there. I'm like, I gotta keep up with Lonnie, man. He looking like he on 4K over there. Got the good screen, the pixels looking right. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to get it right.
Yeah. We got a good day today. Because it's anticipating a lot of great sports to come. We still in this quarantine life for the most part and still without sports, but good news, we got MLB coming back next week, and then we got NBA coming the week after that, and once they get going, we be back in full swing with sports. Football will be coming shortly after that. We still don't have some sports to help us through these tough times dealing with COVID-19 as a society. But before we jump into next week's sports and things of that nature, we want to talk about this football issue, an issue that shouldn't even be an issue in my opinion, Lonnie. It shouldn't even be an issue. That's this Madden ratings fiasco, if you want to call it that.
Right.
Every year, the Madden ratings come out and players upset. I mean, from a personal perspective, I kind of get it. You think highly of your skills, and you see that you got an 84 rating, and you feel like you a top running back or a top quarterback, and you like, man, y'all got it wrong. All right, I understand you being upset. Nothing wrong with you having your personal feelings, but please explain to me, I want your opinion. Explain to me why people getting upset and feeling the need to. Please explain to me, I want your opinion. Explain to me why people getting upset and feeling the need to go online and to have interviews about their Madden rating. What is the fascination with that?
Well, the crazy thing is, it's a video game. But anybody who really plays Madden, who's in the Madden, like truly in the Madden and is a Madden player, knows how serious people take Madden. Madden players take that game. Not only the players that are actually on the field. I mean, they, like you say, they do tend to look at themselves as I'm this quality of player, and if you don't give them that rating, it tends to throw a little spark. I mean, I could understand if I was a NFL player and I felt like my rating should be like a 94, and I came out and EA gave me a 83. I'd be like, man, what? But a lot of people tend to take this serious. I looked at Saquon Barkley. You had him rated initially until Twitter blew up. Not even as a top 5 running back. I mean, you had him rated at an 89. I mean, you got people like Todd Gurley and stuff that was rated higher than him. And I mean, come on, let's just be honest about it. If not the best, he's top 3 running backs in the league this year. Not this year, but over the last couple of years, just versatility, everything he's able to do. We know what Saquon Barkley's capable of. But another one I just want to point out, Rob Gronkowski, overall 95. Really, EA? You know he ain't played in a year, right? I mean, it's just some of the things you can tell that a lot of the guys that's making these ratings are not sports guys.
Yeah. So this is my thing about it. Number one, I don't play Madden anymore. I hadn't played Madden since that's how long. I can't even tell you. It's been years, many, many years. And so I get that that's how long. I can't even tell you. It's been years, many, many years. And so I get that there's gonna be some ridiculous, like every year there's probably gonna be some ridiculous ratings. Like I agree with the Rob Gronkowski rating, and I look at Saquon Barkley. So I don't agree that he's not a top 5 running back, but that's from just looking at all the details within his season. But if rating, so explain. I mean, I'm trying to get my words right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't your rating goes up and down throughout the year depending on how well you do, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So Saquon Barkley, based off of his season and him being injured and not really playing up to his standards that we know he plays, I feel like an 89 is accurate. They ranking, I don't feel like they were saying he's not a top 5 running back. Like if we just had to list our top 5, I feel like they looked at all the factors that were involved and said this is where you are this year, and of course your rating will go up if once you start playing, up to par. I feel like that's fair. I really do feel like that's fair. But I 100% agree with you when it comes to Saquon Barkley not being a top 5 running back. And I understand Madden, they just like everybody else, they got a product, they appease the masses, so they made the change. But this made me actually go and look at Madden ratings, and I wanted to see what was all the fuss. So I went and looked at the ratings, and I have to agree. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
I looked at some of those ratings, and I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. And before we even jump into what we're about to talk about right now, I do want to say this. If you're a rookie, I don't care where you was drafted. I don't care if you was first round, first pick, 7th round, last pick. You accept your ranking. You hadn't played a down in the NFL. They got plenty of people who was who was drafted super high and was busts. We don't know what you're going to be. I don't care what you did at Alabama, Jerry Jeudy. I don't care what you did at Oklahoma, CeeDee Lamb. You have not played a down in the NFL, so stop being all arrogant like you should have a super high rate like you're already one of the better wide receivers. We'll know when the season starts, and when you do what you're supposed to do, get your props. Until then, stop crying. Now, I'm off my rant. But so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna check out the rankings from Madden. And we're just gonna do top 5s, and we're gonna read off the top 5 rankings from Madden, and then we're gonna get into it. And we're just gonna do top 5s, and we're gonna read off the top 5 rankings from Madden, and then we're gonna get into a little bit of debate about our top 5 for those same positions. So let's start off with running back. According to Madden, Chris McCaffrey is the number 1 running back at a ranking of 99. Derrick Henry at 93 is number 2. Ezekiel Elliott at number 3 is a 92. Is 92 overall. Nick Chubb is a 92, and Dalvin Cook is a 91. So I want you to go first, Lonnie. You give me your ranking. You tell me what you think about Madden rankings from the top 5, and then you tell me what your top 5 is.
Well, like I say, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think Madden got it all wrong. When it comes to me, the only one I 100% agree with is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey my debate is with Saquon Barkley. I feel like he should come in at number 3. Even what we said previously before about injuries and stuff like that. Well, what about Dalvin Cook and a couple of other people? I think Zeke should be rated in the 3 or 4 range. I do agree with that. So when it comes down to it, for me, it's Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. Look, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. My bad. Derrick Henry. I think those are your top 3 for sure. But The other two to me can kind of fluctuate. I like Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook is strong. I really do think he's strong. I think Zeke Elliott is strong. I mean, if I had to round out the top five, I would probably put those two in it. Um, I do like them. Just everything they're able to do. They're able to run the ball off the backfield. They're able to catch the ball off the backfield. If I had to round out the top five, I would probably put those two in it. Um, I do like them. Just everything they're able to do. They're able to run the ball off the backfield. They're able to catch the ball off the backfield. They're dual threat running backs. You don't have a lot of them that are dual threats in the game now. And even though Derrick Henry's not as much of a dual threat catching it out the backfield, he's just a monster. I mean, there's not much else to say about that. So I mean, when it comes down to it, for me, it's McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, it's Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook. Those are going to be my top five.
Okay. So we got the same top five, but we don't have them in the same order. I'm gonna go from bottom from 5 to 1. I got Dalvin Cook at number 5, and that was a difficult one for me because I kind of went back and forth between him and Nick Chubb. Because I like Nick Chubb. I feel like Dalvin Cook has injury issues. He hasn't had a full season where he wasn't injured except for healthy for the previous season. He was healthy for this season and he dominated. So I went with him over Nick Chubb because of that, but I feel like Nick Chubb is right there and in that conversation at number 5. And Madden has Nick Chubb at number 4. They have him over Dalvin Cook. I don't think that's necessarily right, but I think they're close. Then I have Ezekiel Elliott. Then I have Derrick Henry at number 3, Christian McCaffrey at number 2, and Saquon Barkley at number 1. Now, I know I just went on this little explanation about why I can see why Madden has Saquon Barkley rated at 89. And I believe that rationale makes sense, even though I wouldn't do it. But to me, Saquon is number 1, and it's not even a conversation. I know Christian McCaffrey is a beast, but I look at the factors involved with why a player is able to do what they do. You know, Saquon was injured, but they also pulled back off of letting him do a lot because you knew what was going to happen. I mean, what the team was going to do. They didn't call his number as much as they could have. He missed some games. When he came back, they kind of gently eased him in. Look how he finished the year, though. You know, and you look at what he's working with. He's working with a line that is terrible. He's bigger. He's faster. He's stronger. You know, if you put Saquon in the same situation as Christian McCaffrey, Saquon has more yards than Christian McCaffrey has. If you put them in the exact same situation. And that's how I like to look at it. I don't like to look at it from, oh, well, look what Christian McCaffrey did. Look at his numbers. Yeah. Look what Saquon would do if he was behind Dallas Cowboys offensive line. You know, people talk about how he'll get 0 yards on a carry and 1 yard on a carry, then he goes 80 yards, and then they look at his total day and say, well, if he didn't have that 80-yarder, well, what if he had a line where he could get 3 or 4 yards before he got touched?
Right.
You know, so Saquon to me is hands down number 1. I say it's not an argument, but I understand why people will put Christian McCaffrey above, but for me, it's not an argument. Saquon is number 1. Wide receivers. Now, wide receivers for Madden, they have I'm missing something. I'm missing something. I'm going to give you my top 5 wide receivers. I'll give you Madden's in a second. But my top 5 wide receivers from in this order is Odell at 5, Tyreek Hill at 4, Julio Jones at 3, DeAndre Hopkins at 2, and Michael Thomas at 1. For me, they got Michael Thomas right. What I do know is that they had Michael Thomas as number 1, and I full-fledged 100% believe that is accurate. But what I don't necessarily agree with is Devonte Adams, which Madden had. This is Madden's top 5. I like Devonte Adams. I really do like Devonte Adams. But Devonte Adams is not in the top 5 for me. Odell Beckham was, I think, close to 10 or maybe below 10. I can't remember exactly where. And I understand why they have Odell Beckham there. But from a pure talent perspective, if you said Odell Beckham or Devonte Adams, I'm sorry, I'm taking Odell Beckham. You give me Odell Beckham with Aaron Rodgers, are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but I do have Tyreek Hill number 4. I know Tyreek Hill, some people say he's a product of his environment. He's with an outstanding team. He has Patrick Mahomes, but you know, I feel like Tyreek Hill is a top 5 wide receiver regardless of the fact that he's with Patrick Mahomes. And it's debatable for Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins. I went Julio Jones number 3 and DeAndre Hopkins number 2. Julio Jones is a little older now. Hopkins is still younger. Hopkins has just as many tools. And it's debatable for Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins. I went Julio Jones number 3 and DeAndre Hopkins number 2. Julio Jones is a little older now. Hopkins is still younger. Hopkins has just as many tools in his tool belt as Julio Jones. I would say Julio Jones maybe 4 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I would say Julio Jones, but because of the age and he's starting to see a little decline, even though it's not enough decline for him to not be one of the top wide receivers. You start to see a little decline, but I would say DeAndre Hopkins over Julio Jones, and then maybe it's some bias. I don't know. Michael Thomas, he's my number 1 wide receiver. I'm a Saints fan, but at the same time, the boy put in the work. People can talk about that he's not a downfield threat. He can be a downfield threat if they want him to be. He's caught balls down the field when they run, give him routes to go down the field. But he is a possession receiver. He does.
You on that? I think he's top 2. The only person I put ahead of Michael Thomas, the boy is a monster. I mean, I don't care if you're a Saints fan or not. He is undeniably great. Did you see the stats from last year? I mean, but my number 1 receiver is DeAndre Hopkins. I think with what he's been given, what he's done in the league, with what he's had at quarterback, I don't even think there's an argument. Like, it's kind of the same example you gave with Saquon with the Cowboys. I feel like give DeAndre Hopkins a Drew Brees or an Aaron Rodgers or something and see what he'll do. Look what he's done with absolutely nobody. I mean, he had Deshaun Watson, the last couple of years, but before that, we saw what he did without Deshaun Watson. And I just feel like I think number 1, hands down, he's number 1. But it's neck and neck. It's like 1A and 1B. For me, it's not really a 1 or 2 because those two, it's 1A, 1B. They both, to me, they are both arguably the 2 best. It's like 1A and 1B. For me, it's not really a 1 or 2 because those two, it's 1A, 1B. They both, to me, they are both arguably the best receiver in the NFL. You could go either way and not be incorrect with it, in my opinion. Now my third for me is definitely Julio Jones. Julio Jones, even though he's getting a little older, I haven't seen him slow down at all. Even adding a couple of receivers and a couple of weapons to the team, he still ain't slowed down. I mean, he's still putting up crazy numbers, man, even going on. And we know with the Falcons how they've been the last couple of years, haven't been great on offense, but he don't seem to stop. I mean, it just seems to keep on going. The one that I do have to disagree with you on a little bit is Devonte Adams. I think Devonte Adams is a beast. What he was able to do, and we have to keep in mind, literally Green Bay had no other receivers. So you're basically going against double coverage every game and produce the way you were able to produce when Aaron Rodgers, everybody on the team know Aaron Rodgers is looking for you. So to go up against those odds and still produce the way he produces, I really, really like Devonte Adams. And I will
But do you like him? So do you like him over Tyreek Hill?
It's tough, man. I think they're about what and what.
Do you like him over Odell?
Yes.
So for you, Odell would be the one that you would move out of the top 5.
Absolutely. And the reason I say that, I know what his talent is. I know what he's capable of. I just didn't see it last year. I mean, don't get me wrong, and I know a lot of that had to do with the quarterback throwing to him, but just like we talked about with DeAndre Hopkins, if you're a good enough receiver, it don't matter who's throwing you the ball, you're going to figure out a way to make it happen. And with
But okay, so let's check this out. Let's have a little debate on just this real quick. But okay, so let's check this out. Let's have a little debate on just this real quick. So Odell went over 1,000 yards last year. You realize that, right?
I'm aware.
Nobody's talking about it. 1,000 yards, having less passes thrown to him, with Jarvis Landry on his team, with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, with a decent tight end. With those weapons, he still was able to get 1,000 yards with a quarterback who wasn't very accurate, and the team didn't have that good of a record. Devonte Adams, now you're right. I completely agree. He is a beast. I like Devonte Adams, but the reason I give Odell the edge is, like I said, if I took Odell and put him with Aaron Rodgers. Remember Odell with Eli Manning when he was the focal point and everybody knew that he was getting the ball and he got 15 passes a game and he murdered? I feel like he did better than Devonte Adams did when Devonte Adams was the man. Everybody was getting the ball. And he still did well. But if you put Odell in that same situation with an Aaron Rodgers, Odell may break records. I mean, that's my opinion about it. So I want to know what you think. Like, if you look at it from the perspective that I'm giving you, if you switched Odell to Devonte and looking at the talent level of what he has, do you think he would be a better producer than Devonte Adams?
I would have to in that aspect, the mental state is where it comes in for me, because my thing is you getting that double and triple coverage, and that quarterback don't give you the ball 2 or 3 times. Where does your mental state go? Because we've seen when Odell don't get the ball how he can act. So, and that was even when he was with the Giants. And one of the reasons sometimes it was like a circus. You know, receivers of the caliber of Odell Beckham don't just get traded. You know, I feel like Devonte Adams' receiver was Valdez-Scantling. I mean, and when I look at that, I don't see Odell Beckham being able to handle the pressure of getting double and triple coverage on a game in and game out basis. And even though yes, you're right, he did it a little bit with the Giants, but I also seen him implode with the Giants. And even being that number one guy who got the ball 15 times, they still got rid of you. There was a reason for that, because you weren't happy, because you felt like you should be getting it even more. You know, and I just feel like the mindset and the attitude that Odell Beckham has, I don't even think he can handle it.
Now, if you add that into there, I will give you that as a caveat as to why you would choose Devonte Adams. I still feel like, though, that from a talent perspective, if you put him in a situation with Aaron Rodgers, even the mental aspect of it, I wonder how he adjusts to being with a proven leader, a Super Bowl champion, a team that has a winning pedigree. You know, those things matter, you know. So, but we'll never know with Aaron Rodgers, even the mental aspect of it, I wonder how he adjusts to being with a proven leader, a Super Bowl champion, a team that has a winning pedigree. You know, those things matter, you know. So, but we'll never know. That's why it's debate. That's why this, you know, debate is good for sports. I always wonder why. But anyways, go ahead if you were still talking about your wide receiver.
No, basically all I want to do is I'm gonna actually give my top 5, 1 through 5, which is, like I say, my 1A and 1B is DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas. Then I have Julio Jones. In that 4 spot, I do have Tyreek Hill. In that 5 spot, I have Devonte Adams.
Okay, so again, pretty close list. And for quarterback, now we're not gonna do linemen and defense and all that, y'all, with Madden. You know, that's just too much. We wanted to give the offensive skill positions because those are the positions that we talk about the most. But for quarterback, Madden, they have Patrick Mahomes, number 1. I love Drew Brees. He's not the 4th best quarterback. Tom Brady, he shouldn't even be in the top 10. I mean, maybe right at 10, you know, if I had to like really break it down, he might be right there at 10. But I could see a scenario where he's not even in the top 10. And this actually contradicts my rationale for why they gave Saquon Barkley 89. Because with the rationale that I used, Tom Brady should not be in the top 5. If they rated these players based off of their production in the previous year, and then they gave them ratings based on that, Tom Brady's not a top 5 quarterback. So that's why my final comment was, when I looked at the list as a whole, the people that are making these ratings don't know what the hell they're doing. They clearly don't know what the hell they're doing. But here's my top 5. Drew Brees to me is not a top 4 quarterback, but I do have him right outside of that at number 5. And again, that could be my bias. The ratings don't know what the hell they're doing. They clearly don't know what the hell they're doing. But here's my top 5. Drew Brees to me is not a top 4 quarterback, but I do have him right outside of that at number 5. And again, that could be my bias. Drew Brees clearly has fallen off from what he used to be, but he's still incredibly accurate. And he's not accurate like Tom Brady accurate. He's not accurate like dink and dunk to your running back or your tight end. He still moves the ball down the field. He throws the ball outside of the numbers very well. His arm strength has decreased, so he doesn't throw the deep ball that well. But anything inside the numbers and, you know, outside the numbers within 10 to 15, 20 yards, he's money. and that's why they have one of the top offenses every year. You look at his stats last year, he still was one of the better quarterbacks when you look at QBR, yards, touchdowns. He's still right there. He may not have top 5 stats in every category, but I'm going to make an argument that Russell Wilson can actually challenge Patrick Mahomes to be the number 1 quarterback, but I'm going to make it after you give your top 5, Lonnie. Because I want to know what you have to say about our argument when I say what I'm going to say about Russell Wilson. But go ahead.
Definitely. My top 5 is actually pretty similar to yours. The 4 or 5 is probably going to surprise you a little bit for me. But of course, my number 1 is Patrick Mahomes, hands down. I mean, it's no questions asked. Russell Wilson, yeah, I give him the number 2 spot over Lamar Jackson just because of his arm. He's capable of running the ball, not as good as Lamar Jackson, don't get me wrong, but we've seen what Russell Wilson can do running the ball, and his arm is impeccable, man. Just reading defenses and the way he throws the ball, the deep ball is beautiful. So, I mean, I definitely, I give him the edge at number 3. At number 2, I apologize, over Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, of course, number 3. I'm baffled that he's not in the top 5. Also, that blows my mind. Number 5 for me, Carson Wentz. Walk it to him, Wentz. That's somebody, nobody ever talks about him. No, and I hear all the discussion about.
There's a reason for that.
No. Do people realize? And don't get me wrong, I understand they were 8-8 last year, or us. But do you realize what he got the Philadelphia Eagles to the playoffs with? His number 1 receiver was Greg Ward. Playing against a pretty good Dallas Cowboys team, had to go through them to get to the playoffs. Because everybody's talking about Dak Prescott and how he deserves his money and this and this and that. Let's keep in mind, he beat Dak twice last year. With the roster that he had, we saw he was missing his best offensive lineman, his left guard. He was missing a right tackle. And he was missing his whole receiving core and running backs. And the dude still got to the playoffs. Core and running backs. And the dude still got to the playoffs. And he did it with his arm. So, I mean, I know a lot of people probably be surprised and be like, man, he's going crazy saying Carson Wentz is a top 5 running back. I mean, quarterback. But, man, just a couple of years ago, he was in the MVP discussion before he hurt his leg. And I think he proved a lot of people and showed a lot of people he's coming back, or if not all the way back, last year with bringing them to the playoffs, even though I know they were in a weak division. But still, to bring them to the playoffs with what they had, I go Carson Wentz at 5.
You finished?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a few questions. What was the Eagles' record last year?
8-8.
What was the Cowboys' record last year?
7-9.
Okay. What was the Redskins' record? I'm sorry. What was the Washington football's team record?
It was worse.
And what was the Giants' record?
Why you got look? Why you got to bring up those?
No. You went there with Carson Wentz as your number 5, so you gonna have to defend this because I completely disagree with that as Carson Wentz as number 5 quarterback. Now, of course, that's your opinion, so of course, but this is I'm one of those people when you say people are probably going to listen to this and think, oh, he think he crazy. I'm one of them. I'm raising my hand to that. Because Carson Wentz, to me, he's a top 5 talent, but he's not a top 5 QB right now. So everything you said about what he did is true. He took a roster full of nobodies, and he wheeled them into the playoffs. But he did that with an 8-8 record in a division that's arguably the worst division ever in football for a football season. And he didn't play well doing it. That's the biggest thing for me, is he didn't play well doing it. Now, he had his issues with, his injuries and stuff like that, but he missed throws. He made mistakes. Look what he did to Zach Ertz. In that game in the playoffs, where he literally left him, hung him out to dry, and that's why he ended up getting hurt and not being able to, play and help them get further in the playoffs. That was a bad play by him. So if Carson Wentz, him being injury prone does matter, but if every time he came back from injury he was top notch, he just kept getting hurt, I would say, you know what, Carson Wentz is top 5. He just got to stay healthy. But he hadn't shown that MVP prowess that he had before he got hurt. Every time he's come back, he looks average. And people are holding on. I feel like people are holding on to what they saw from him as if that's what's coming back again. I hadn't seen it. And he's played enough games, in my opinion, to show us that he could be back at that level. And he just hasn't. So I like Carson Wentz, but I do not think he's a top 5 QB. And that's just me though. You know, your argument, you make points, and I see why you would put him there number 5. I just feel like I can't hold on to what he did in a couple of years ago and give him that nod.
Well, it goes back to what you said. He didn't play well at the beginning of last year, but he played very well toward the end. And like I say, well, go ahead.
No, go ahead, because you was breaking up a little bit, so I didn't catch what you said. Say it again.
No, I was saying basically he didn't play well at the beginning of the season. You are absolutely right. But toward the end, but it goes back to what we say, give him what the Cowboys had. Give him that offense with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. Give him those weapons and see what he does. If he don't look, he didn't look great with Greg Ward. His number 1 receiver in what you said was Zach Ertz, his tight end. That's the best receiver on this team for him basically this past year. And yeah, he probably did set up Ertz to get hit, but guess what? He was throwing it to him every play. Literally. I mean, it was literally stop Ertz and see what he can do. And they did it. And guess what? He still did it. Because we talk about that throw to set up Ertz to get him hurt, but what about the throw for the touchdown to Greg Ward in the back of the end zone to win the game? You know, he had two comebacks toward the end of that season to help them get into the playoffs. He literally carried them into the playoffs by himself.
Yeah. Okay. I give you that.
Comebacks toward the end of that season to help them get into the playoffs. He literally carried them into the playoffs by himself.
Yeah. Okay. I give you that. Conversations for another day, because we definitely gonna have a lot of debates to go on with who we think the better players are and who's doing well. My argument for Russell Wilson being the best quarterback is gonna have to wait. We running low on time, so we're gonna move on. But we got plenty of time to discuss that later. Moving on to NBA action. So we don't have a lot of NBA news to report. You know, July 30th is the date that we're waiting for, but there are a couple of things that happened that impact the NBA largely. One of them being Rajon Rondo. He fractured his thumb, I think. Mm-hmm. He's reportedly out 6 to 8 weeks. Lonnie, what does that loss mean to the Lakers?
To me, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Going into the little 8-game season, and also I think we'll be fine without him going into the first round. He's projected to possibly come back in the second round of the playoffs. Not necessarily saying he will. We got to see how the rehab and stuff goes. But if that's able to happen, then I don't think we miss a whole lot with him at all. Because in my opinion, we don't really need Rondo to get through the first round of the playoffs. You get later on, I think we need him more then to kind of run the offense and give LeBron a rest because we know when he's off the floor, that's who they're expecting to run the offense. But I don't think it'll affect us as much in the early stages. I think it would be more of an issue if it happened during the playoffs or something like that. But with us having the capability of getting him back in the second round, mid-second round, maybe even the third round, I think it'll be fine.
Okay, cool. I agree. I don't think that it's much of an impact, especially the fact that he's going to be back around, about the second round. Playoff Rondo is a real. I agree. I don't think that it's much of an impact, especially the fact that he's going to be back around, about the second round. Playoff Rondo is a real thing. He does elevate his play. One of the few people in history to have higher numbers across the board in playoffs than he does in the regular season. So his leadership and his experience is definitely going to help the Lakers on their road to the championship. But in the grand scheme of things, the Lakers are loaded, and with their additions of J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters to add 2 players that can get their own shot coming off of your bench makes them deeper. People don't really talk that much about the Morris twin that they added. And I don't say his first name because I get him mixed up.
Markeith.
But y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Markeith, yeah, he is a beast, and he was just getting his feet wet because he just got the deal. If he was going the whole playoffs, I would say maybe, because when he get to the finals, anticipating him playing somebody like the Clippers, him being there probably would be major because of what he can bring to the team in the finals. If they make it that far, him being there would be major. But being that he'll probably be back in the second round, not that big of a deal. Montrez Harrell and Zion Williamson both had to leave the bubble for family emergencies. Now, what impact does that have for the Clippers, for Montrez Harrell, and for the Pelicans for Zion Williamson?
I don't think it has much of an impact unless they come back and test positive. You know, we all have things come up that are unexpected, and it obviously must be some serious family issue or personal family issues. And I don't think it's anything to do with the virus or anything, because one of the reasons I say that is they're not really telling us what it is. And it obviously must be some serious family issue or personal family issues. And I don't think it's anything to do with the virus or anything, because one of the reasons I say that is they're not really telling us what it is. We all know if it was something to do with Corona or something like that, it'd probably be all over the news. One of Zion Williams' family members or such and such and such and such has the coronavirus, is sick or ill or something like that. People will find a way to find out what's going on. So with that not coming out, or them not telling us what it is, I think it's just a personal family. It could be a death in the family or something to that aspect. So I really I don't think it personally affects them at all, as long as they're still social distancing while they're taking care of whatever they're taking care of, and they come back and they test healthy. I don't think it's going to be an issue at all for either one of them.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to answer this question as if they miss portions of the season or all of it. Because if they come back with no issues and they start the Pelicans, if Zion misses the start of the games, and the reason why I say is because they left the bubble, they hadn't returned, they play on the 30th. If you have to quarantine, like, you just can't come back into the bubble. So I can't imagine them starting the season, because you have to have a certain amount of days after you leave, like after you don't have contact with people in the bubble, to show that you don't have COVID, so you can come back in the bubble clean and not infected. Therefore decreasing the risk of passing it on to teammates and other players in the league. So it is the 20th of July. They play in 10 days. I can't imagine that they'll be ready. They hadn't made it back yet. So I can't imagine that they're going to start the season. So if they don't start the season, for Clippers, not that big of a deal. They're locked into the playoffs, probably going to be locked into the number 2 seed. For the Pelicans, it's a huge deal, because Zion clearly has helped change the trajectory, in which that team was playing when he arrived. And they basically have to win every game to make it to the playoffs, or to get to that play-in, to get the opportunity to go to the playoffs. So them starting without him, not having chemistry again because they have all this time off, trying to get your legs back under you, you know, that's hurtful to that team, in my opinion, him not being there to start off. So I think that damages their chances. They didn't have a great chance anyway because they're so far away from that 8th spot. But I think this decreases their opportunity to make it to the playoffs. Now, let's say Harrell does not come back at all for whatever reason. That is damaging to the Clippers. Yeah. He is their defensive energy. I know Kawhi Leonard is one of the best in the league, but Kawhi Leonard is a defender for himself. Montrez Harrell gets the team hype. Him and Pat Beverly, it's like a defensive person on that team. And Montrez Harrell is a hustler. He gets those rebounds, those putbacks, those second chance shots. I mean, he's just like the Energizer Bunny. He's a spark that Lou Williams is a spark on offense off the bench. Montrez Harrell is a spark on defense, and it's going to be hard for them because they are already ranked as one of the bottom teams when it comes to defensive when it comes to rebounding, because they don't really play their center that they don't really play him that many minutes. Maybe around 20 minutes a game, and Harrell, he gets the 30 minutes a game or so. So with him out, that makes them really small because they're not going to go to their center to get big minutes. They're going to keep the same type of rotation, probably giving Maurice Morris more run. Now, he's a good person to add to that spot because they're deep, but he's not the same person, same player that Montrezl Harrell is. I think that hurts them in the long run.
Oh, I agree with you. Oh, I agree with you 100%. Now, everything that I've understood about players leaving the bubble, I think have to get tested, and they have 48 hours that they have to stay away. It's not the full 2 weeks. Unless you test positive. But I agree with you 100%. If Zion Williamson misses 2 or 3 games, they don't make the playoffs. Period. I feel like Portland is already going to be super strong coming back. Memphis was decent, but Portland is the team. Portland is the team that's coming back. Completely fully healthy. They got a chip on their shoulder, and I think if the Pelicans aren't 100% and playing with chemistry already, that's going to be an issue. Because not only do you have to jump the Grizzlies, you also have to jump the Trailblazers, and not having a completely healthy or Zion Williamson there for all 8 games, you're not going to be able to do it. And I agree with you 100% with Montrezl Harrell too. I feel like he's the man. I mean, you could argue that either one of them could be 6th man of the year the way they come off the bench and play. We all know Montrezl Harrell don't start, but he's basically the center for that team. Zubac is not the guy. They put him in to just absorb some minutes because they like Harrell coming off the bench. That's his role, and that's what he's good at. But if it came down to it, you could probably take him and put him on several other teams, and he'll be in the starting lineup. They just choose not to put him in there. So missing him, you're basically losing a starter. So with that being said, I absolutely think it affects their defense. Like you said, they're already a weak rebounding team. I mean, you got a lot of guards and forwards. And to take him off that team, even though I think he's a forward, he's not really a center in my opinion, but he plays like one. He plays big. He's small, but he plays big. He gets rebounds. He plays defense. He blocks shots. He does those things. So to me, he's an even bigger loss, in my opinion, than Zion Williamson for the Pelicans, because I think their chances are better. And even though they need him, and the better that spot can be, the better it is for that team. But I think Montrezl Harrell is probably the glue, like you said, him and Pat Bev. But I think he's the glue to that defense.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So earlier in the show, we talked about baseball coming back. Well, baseball is here pretty much, July 23rd. But when we do our next show, we will already have had 2 days of baseball action. So we want to jump into baseball right now. It's a 60-game season. It starts July 23rd. The first game is the first day is only 2 games. There's the Yankees versus the Nationals and the Dodgers versus the Giants. I don't want to get too deep into baseball right now because there's so much uncertainty. I'll be honest with you, there's so many players that's not even playing that opted out. I don't want to really get into too much of baseball, much uncertainty. I'll be honest with you, there's so many players that's not even playing that opted out. I don't want to really get into too much of baseball, but I do want to throw out some World Series picks, that for myself, who I think is going to win the World Series. And Lonnie, if you got your World Series picks, I want you to throw them out as well.
Cool.
So, like I said, on the 23rd, we have the first 2 games, Yankees versus Nationals and Dodgers versus Giants. And it's funny that I didn't even notice was the matchup when I made my picks, but I actually have the Yankees and Nationals in the World Series. I feel like in a 60-game season, the Yankees have the team that can really like get started early, get off to a good start. They got Jarrett Cole now on their team. That is huge. You know what I'm saying? Probably one of the top, if not the top pitcher in the league. They were able to acquire him to bolster their pitching staff. The offensive firepower they have with Judge and Stanton. For those teams on offense, top to bottom, they got hitters. They have good good defense, and now they bolstered their pitching squad. They are my pick for the World Series leaders in the American League and in the National League. I like the Nationals. I know that may seem cliche to some people to pick the World Series champs to defend their title, but most people didn't think they were going to win the World Series. I, on the other hand, chose them to win the World Series. I saw how good they were. They have an excellent team with Trey Turner at shortstop, Juan Soto in the outfield, who is right there as a top 10 outfielder, maybe top 5, depending on how you just view him. They have a really good squad, and they still have Max Scherzer, at the top of that rotation. They still have a good pitching squad. So I see them in a 60-game season. I can see them definitely repeating as World Series champs, but definitely being in the World Series again.
Yankees. I do agree with you with the Yankees. I think getting Garrett Cole and to kind of piggyback off of what you said, I think he is the best pitcher in the league at this point. He definitely has the best contract, and his contract says he's the best pitcher in the league. But of course, he did go to the Yankees too, so that has a lot to do with that. But dude, they're loaded. They're loaded. We talk about just the three people you named. We don't even you think about some of their team. I mean, Aaron Hicks, you got a lot of guys that were hurt last year, bro. They're stacked from top to bottom, 1 through 9. That team is stacked. There's not a whole lot. I mean, Masahiro Tanaka, you got a good pitching staff. You got everything you need to win the World Series. You really do. My other pick is the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers can make a run this year. The 60-game season with Clayton Kershaw. I think a lot of people, always give him a bad rap for the playoffs, which is deserved, well deserved. But I think adding Mookie Betts, having Cody Bellinger, and both of them are two MVP caliber candidates. Jock Peterson, you got a lot of people well deserved. But I think adding Mookie Betts, having Cody Bellinger, and both of them are two MVP caliber candidates. Jock Peterson, you got a lot of players on that team. They're pretty stacked themselves. And just looking at everything I'm looking at, I think they can make a run for it. I like what you say about the Nationals, and I pretty much agree with you. And I think they pretty much have the same team coming back except Rendon. Which even Rendon being a good player, he wasn't like the guy who took them to the World Series. He was a good integral part of it, but they found somebody to replace him too. So, in my opinion, I mean, it's kind of, I'm going with the Dodgers and the Yankees, but I could very well see where what you're saying with them, the Nationals, they could easily go back and repeat as the champs. I mean, I had them like in my top 4, so I definitely agree with you on that. I will throw out a couple of other teams that I think has a chance to come. The Astros, even though losing Garrett Cole, they still have Verlander and they still have that team, and I think they got a chip on their shoulder with all the stuff that came out. So I think that's a team that has something to prove. The Minnesota Twins, I don't know if you remember last year, they actually broke the record for most home runs in a season by a team. I mean, they got a team full of bombers, and they pretty much coming back with the same team and pitchers and stuff like that. So I think they can be good. And also the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta Braves have a great pitching staff. Nobody really talks about Ronald Acuna Jr., and I think he's going to have a breakout year this year. So I think the Atlanta Braves is a team with their pitching and the way they play can also compete.
Yeah, those are good picks. I like the Yankees Dodgers pick as a World Series matchup. That would be my dream matchup because I'm a Yankees fan and the Dodgers fan. Those are my favorite two teams. So if they both make this matchup, that would be my dream matchup because I'm a Yankees fan and the Dodgers fan. Those are my favorite two teams. So if they both make it to the World Series, then I'm like, hey, whoever wins, I'm happy because both of y'all my squads. But yeah, so those are good. Those are good picks as well. What's your fantasy? Let's jump into some fantasy. So let's lead off with golf. You gave some golf picks last week. How's that going?
They're going okay. The Memorial is still going on. It's actually going to be a pretty long tournament. Tiger didn't start off too well. He actually, I don't even know for sure if he made the cut. He was on the brink of not even making the cut after the first round. A lot of the other guys, everything's been pretty steady. It's consistent. The only one that's really just tanking based off of everything I've looked at is Tiger. Tiger's not playing well, but I try not to. When it comes to golf, you can't judge based off the first couple of rounds because you could have a guy that barely makes the cut the first round and come back and kills it the next 3 rounds. So it's just, golf is such an up and down day-to-day thing. You can have a great day one day and completely fall off the next day. So it's one of those things where you just, golf is it's whoever feeling it that day or that week. It's one of those things where the best players in the world can look like.
Updates with that for next week.
Definitely.
We'll see how your team did in that particular golf tournament. Baseball. So on the 23rd, we have our first game. I got a couple of picks that I think you should consider when making your rosters. If you are doing a lot of rosters, then with 2 games, like I said, the first two games are the Nationals versus the Yankees and the Giants versus the Dodgers. So there's not a lot to pick from. So if you're making a lot of lineups, you're going to have a lot of very similar lineups, probably with a few changes. But a couple of people that I think are must plays for the 23rd, Garrett Cole has to be a play for you. Max Scherzer is also a good play, but I feel like when you look at those two as pitchers, even if you want to say they're equal, the lineups that they're pitching against are not. The Yankees have a better lineup, and if there's going to be a team that Max Scherzer is also a good play, but I feel like when you look at those two as pitchers, even if you want to say they're equal, the lineups that they're pitching against are not. The Yankees have a better lineup, and if there's going to be a team that starts off fast, it's going to be the Yankees. Scherzer, if I can remember correctly, kind of starts off slow a little bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees have a decent day against him. You also got to think about, unless Scherzer's going to pitch completely 9 innings, when the bullpen comes in, to probably around inning 6 or 7. Doubt that he pitches 9 innings in the first game back. That's when the window opens up for the Yankees if Scherzer is pitching a heck of a game. So I definitely like Garrett Cole as the better option in that matchup. And as far as batting goes, it's so hard, to really pick players at the beginning. Play your Dodgers against Johnny Cueto. Johnny Cueto is aging. He's not the pitcher he used to be. He probably is not going to have that great of a game. He could, because anything is possible, and he does have pretty good games throughout the season. But as a pitcher in general, he has fallen off, and the Dodgers are stacked. Now, I say, for the most part, you should stack the Dodgers with whatever team that you feel you want to stack them with. Because, again, the Dodgers are starting his name, it just completely escaped me. But what's Kershaw? Yeah, the Dodgers are starting Clayton Kershaw, so he's still the top-notch pitcher. So you basically stack your Dodgers against Cueto, and then make your picks on who you think who's going to have a good game with those other teams, because they're all pitching against batting against good pitchers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The only one I would say
your picks on who you think who's going to have a good game with those other teams, because they're all pitching against batting against good pitchers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The only one I would say my value pick for Thursday is Clayton Kershaw. As much as I love Garrett Cole, I love Max Scherzer, but they also cost about $1,000 more than he do. And I think he can have one of those games playing against the Giants, one of those vintage Clayton Kershaw games, and he can give you what you need. And with him being a little cheaper, you're able to build around him and add people like Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger to stack against the San Francisco Giants, because I think they will have a strong game. And to be honest with you, I don't like the Yankees or Nationals. I don't really like any hitters from either one of those games, because I have that much love for Garrett Cole and Max Scherzer. Even though they are stacked, one thing I do know about the Yankees are they're big strikeout guys too. The Aaron Judge, the Giancarlo Stanton. Those are guys that you here and there from the Yankees, because I do like the Yankees over the Nationals as far as players go and who you're gonna pick. And I do think you do have some good value. And some of the Yankees, like Giancarlo Stanton, where he's priced at, I think at $3,500. It might be a little less than that. It may be $3,000. He's a very, very good pick at that price for an outfielder. And what he can give you at $3,500, it is $3,500. That's definitely somebody that you don't want to just look over and just be biased and not want to play.
Yeah. Also keep in mind, if you do play somebody like Garrett Cole or Max Scherzer, those high-priced pitchers, if you do decide to stack a team like the Dodgers, make sure you look at stacking those players that are not top-notch. Max Muncy, he's top-notch, but, consider Max Muncy, consider Justin Turner, consider those players who don't cost as much, could have good games as well. And if contrarian, you can go contrarian and you can go Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw is also a pitcher who starts off slow. I know you have him as your value pick, and that's a good value pick because he doesn't cost as much and he very well may have a good game. But if you're a contrarian play, you can go stack the Dodgers, and stack the Giants, and that will allow you to pick up somebody like Jared Cole with no problem,
Right.
because the Giants players do not cost that much money. And for the main event, the main day, the 24th, that's when you have 13 games. Every other team will play on that day. My sleeper pitcher for that day is Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn is playing against Colorado, but they're playing in Texas. Lance Lynn, if you go and check his last maybe 2 months, he was pitching very excellent. His from a fantasy perspective, he was scoring in the 40s and the 50s, high 50s. You know, he's like $8,300 on Colorado, but they're playing in Texas. Lance Lynn, if you go and check his last maybe 2 months, he was pitching very excellent. His from a fantasy perspective, he was scoring in the 40s and the 50s, high 50s. You know, he's like $8,300 on FanDuel, which is a very good price. So that's my sleeper pick, for my value pick for pitchers. And then for my hitters, I like Harper. Harper. He tends to start off pretty fast. I like Jose Ramirez. He finished the season last year on fire. He started off slow. I know he started off slow because he was on my fantasy team and I was mad. But he caught fire towards the end of the year. He was one of the top hitters. I also like Jose Ramirez with Lindor as well, to stack those two players together. And I like Altuve and Bregman from Houston. And just in team general stacks, I like Astros and Cleveland.
Cool. But also coming back this year, completely healthy and everything. I think he can be a great pick. And also Jose Barrios. I mean, and their matchups are great. Bumgarner's playing San Diego. Jose Barrios is playing the White Sox, and he's priced at $9,200. Both of them, to me, are very good value picks, and have very, very good matchups. Some two people I would definitely look into having. I'm going to give a couple of picks that I like, and then I'm going to give a couple of value picks to put around them. I feel like Bryce Harper at 3,900 playing against Miami is a great pick that you initially mentioned. I think that's an awesome pick. You got to have him in your lineups. I also like J.D. Martinez against Baltimore at 3,900 also. And another person we don't really think about, but I mean, I think you may have had him last year in fantasy, but Paul Goldschmidt. He's priced at $3,500 for that first baseman catcher spot, and they're playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. You know, I think those are three really good matchups for Strong Schmidt. He's priced at $3,500 for that first baseman catcher spot, and they're playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. You know, I think those are three really good matchups for strong players, and some players that I'll give that you can use to fit around them is like Gavin Lux. For the Dodgers, he's $2,800. He's the second baseman. You also have, you initially mentioned Jock Peterson or AJ Pollock. They're both $3,000. I don't know which one of them will start, but if I had to guess based off of what they've done with Jock Peterson the last couple of years, it'll probably be a rotation. Elvis Andrews at shortstop against Colorado at $2,800. I think it could be a really, really good pick. And also Tim Frazier. Against Colorado. I think those could be some value picks at $2,600, some people that you can put around them to try to put those big name guys in your lineup, like the Mookie Betts and, you know, players like that. Being able to have those cheaper players will allow you to be able to put the Bryce Harpers, the J.D. Martinez, the Paul Goldschmidts around, you know, in the lineups and put those guys around them.
Cool. Good analysis. And finally, with fantasy and basketball, if you're already looking at your lineups and you're considering players to play for the first day, again, the first day in basketball in NBA is July 30th with the Pelicans versus the Utah Jazz and the Clippers versus the Lakers. And being that those two teams, the Clippers and Pelicans, have players that are currently out of the bubble and they may not start the season, you want to consider that as far as making your team. So Zion Williamson was one of my top plays for that day, but if he's out, then Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Drew Holiday, they're almost must plays. Yeah. All three of them, in my personal opinion. You know, because if you paid attention to when they were playing without Zion Williamson, there were several games where all three of them killed it together in the same game. And it's hard to put a lineup together when you have only 2 games and trying to fit 2 of those players in. But if you have a team like the Pelicans, who is very high-powered on offense, meaning that they put up a lot of points, they move up and down the court, Lonzo Ball gets his points and his assists. He's also a rebound machine. Drew Holiday is an assist machine and a scorer. And Ingram is a scorer and a rebounder as well. And they're very affordable in comparison to the other top-notch players that'll be playing. So if Zion Williamson misses, definitely consider stacking those three players on one side. And if Harrell misses, Anthony Davis is a must-play all nights anyway. But he's definitely a must play if Harrell does not play. They have no one that can match up with Davis. Generally, like Davis won't be stopped, but Harrell does play defense enough to cause some issues, like to maybe make him play a little that can match up with Davis. Generally, like Davis won't be stopped, but Harrell does play defense enough to cause some issues, like to maybe make him play a little harder. If Harrell doesn't play, definitely consider Davis. Rebounder, scoring, that first day back may be like an 80-point game for Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. So if Harrell is out, definitely consider him as well. But also consider Zubac, as a value play at center if Harrell doesn't play, because he may get more minutes. So you got anything else, Lonnie?
The only thing I would that I wanted to add to that, I pretty much don't have a lot because I agree with everything you said. The only other person I would watch as a value play is Jahlil Okafor. No Zion Williamson. We've seen what he can do. He's not a guaranteed, but for what he's going to be priced, which is going to be probably very, very cheap, what he can do when he gets the minutes.
That concludes our show. This is Hold This L. I'm Lonnie. No, I'm not Lonnie. I'm prepared.
I'm Lonnie, but it's okay.
And we are out. Y'all have a good day.